Hey, this is the video about using velocity banking even when your income isn't super high. Let's get started. Every week someone asks me the same question. Adam, I don't make a lot of money. Can I still use velocity banking? And I get why the question comes up. You know, when your paycheck disappears to taxes, debt payments, groceries, and gas, it feels like there's nothing left to work with. You know, sometimes it feels like the system only works for people who already make more than you. But here's the thing. The people who see the fastest progress with velocity banking are often the ones who start with very, very little. And not because they have more income, but because they learn to own more of what they make. Hey, I'm Adam Carroll, founder of the Shred Method. I've spent years helping homeowners take control of their mortgages, pay them down or off in record time, and use strategies like this to start building real wealth. So in this video, we're going to break down exactly how velocity banking works on a low income. We'll run the numbers, we'll talk about the habits that matter, and by the end, you'll know exactly whether this strategy can help you get ahead, even if money is tight right now. The real reason low income isn't the barrier you think it is. One of the most surprising things I've learned after working with families for nearly 2 decades is this. People don't struggle because they make too little. They struggle because their money is getting pulled in 20 different directions before they ever get a chance to use it. And I'll tell you a quick story to show you what I mean. A few years ago, I worked with a couple earning a pretty average income, just under $3,000 a month after taxes. They were doing everything quote unquote right. They weren't overspending, they weren't buying toys, they weren't living beyond their means. Yet every month they felt like the money just evaporated. And when we sat down together, it became clear why. Interest on old debts, minimum payments they'd stopped questioning, and small commitments that they'd forgotten about were eating a huge percentage of their income. Not lifestyle, not bad habits, just the quiet drag of the system. But here's what changed everything for them. It wasn't a raise, it wasn't a second job, it was just clarity. Once they understood where their money was actually going, they found a small amount of margin. Not a lot, but just enough. And that little bit of breathing room became the spark that they needed to create a wealth building fire. This is the part people don't realize. Velocity banking doesn't need a huge income. It needs small, consistent margin and the discipline and the commitment to use it intentionally. In fact, the people who often get results the fastest are the ones with tighter budgets, because when your income is modest, you don't get the luxury of ignoring waste. You catch those leaks early. You make conscious decisions. You build habits quicker because you have to. And velocity banking rewards exactly that. It rewards awareness. It rewards consistency. It rewards people who take control of their month instead of letting the month control them. So before you assume your income is too low for your situation or that your situation is too tight for this to work, let's level the playing field here. Your ability to build wealth has far less to do with how much you make and far more to do with how much of your money you actually own at the end of the month. And that's what we're going to talk about next. The fundamentals that make this strategy work no matter what your income looks like. Fundamental number 1, you must have money left over. When people hear you need money left over, they often assume this is a budgeting lecture. And I'm here to tell you, it's not. What we're really talking about is control. Most people don't realize how unpredictable their month actually is. Money comes in, money goes out, but the pattern changes every 30 days. Different bills, different timing, different surprises. So if your month feels unpredictable, velocity banking will also feel unpredictable too. So the very first step in creating a consistent, predictable baseline surplus. Something small but reliable that shows up every single month. Think of it like setting a financial floor beneath your feet. Before you can run, you need steady ground to run on. And there's only 3 ways to create that. Number 1, reduce a fixed cost. Number 2, lower the cost of your interest. And number 3, increase the inflow, your cash flow, your income. Notice I didn't say cut back on everything. Like, you don't need austerity here. You need one meaningful shift that changes the shape of your month. So here are a few real examples from clients that we've worked with at the Shred Method. And none of these require a higher income. One person we worked with refinanced a high interest loan and instantly freed up $90 a month. So ask yourself the question, are there loans out there that you have right now that we could refinance to bring the interest rate down to free up more of that spread? Another member of ours canceled a service they hadn't used in a year, $60 a month back into their pocket. A third client simply changed the timing of their bill payments to match their pay schedule. No savings, just less chaos. And that alone created $120 in predictable monthly breathing room. So the question there is, are all of your bills front-loaded at the beginning of the month or at the end of the month? Can we spread those out to create a more unified, consistent, predictable cash flow? One family we worked with negotiated their insurance premiums and freed up $45 a month, and that became their seed surplus. So as you can tell, these aren't dramatic. They're not huge lifestyle changes, but what they do is they create the predictability that this strategy needs. You see, velocity banking doesn't require you to sacrifice everything. It requires you to decide which money flows actually serve you and which flows you've allowed to continue strictly out of habit. And once you carve out even a slim, dependable surplus, that's when the strategy starts to take shape. Because the next step isn't saving the money, it's using it in a way that changes your financial trajectory completely. And that's where the real velocity begins. Fundamental number 2, what you do with your surplus matters. Once you've carved out a predictable surplus, even a modest one, the next step is deciding how that money moves. And this part matters more than people realize because surplus by itself doesn't create progress. It's only valuable when it's pointed in the right direction. So most people follow this very simple pattern. Extra money goes into savings, or it gets absorbed into everyday life. And neither of those will move the needle in your wealth building journey. But velocity banking takes a very different approach. Instead of letting your surplus sit still or get spent, you route it toward the part of your financial life that costs you the most. And that's where movement becomes very powerful. You see, every dollar that you direct intentionally has a job. It's to shorten the distance between where you are and where you want to be. And this is where people misunderstand the strategy. Because velocity banking isn't about paying down all your debt at once. It's not about cutting everything in your life. It's not even about working harder. It's about taking the small amount of margin you've created and asking one simple question. Where does this dollar have the greatest impact? And sometimes the answer is a high interest loan. Sometimes it's a credit card that's dragging down your cash flow. Sometimes it's restructuring how and when your money moves so you aren't losing unnecessary dollars throughout the month. But the goal is really always the same. Your surplus should begin eliminating the things that are quietly costing you the most. And this is why movement matters. Every time you direct surplus towards the highest impact area, it reduces your future cost. And reducing future costs increases future cash flow. And increased cash flow gives you more surplus to work with next month. That's the loop you want. Surplus, reduce cost, create more surplus, and repeat the process month after month after month. Fundamental number 3, taxes and interest are your biggest expenses. Now, once you start directing your surplus towards the right places, something becomes very clear very quickly. The things draining your income the fastest are not the things you willingly spend money on. It's the things that happen automatically, even before you get a vote. And there are 2 forces that shape almost every financial life, whether your income is high or low. Those 2 things are taxes and the interest expense on debt. So most people think that their biggest expenses are rents or groceries or transportation. But when you zoom out and you look at the entire year, not just a single month, the picture changes. Taxes take a slice out of every paycheck before it reaches you. Interest takes a slice of every debt payment after it reaches you. And together, those 2 expenses quietly determine how much of your income you actually own. This is where many families feel stuck, not because they're doing anything wrong, but because so much of their money is leaving in ways they never ever question. So think about it this way. If you lose 20% of your month to taxes and another 10 to 15% to interest, that's 30 to 35% of your income disappearing off the top. Not paying for your life, not building your future. It's just gone. And velocity banking exists to interrupt that pattern. Because when you use your surplus to reduce interest-bearing balances, You're not just paying those debts down, you're shrinking one of the largest ongoing expenses in your life. You're reclaiming money that would have been lost every future month. And the same principle, candidly, applies with taxes. Not by avoiding them, but by understanding the timing and the structure of your money flow so you keep more of what you earn legally and intentionally. The moment you reduce either of these, taxes or interest, something important happens. Your month opens up. You have more breathing room. You gain margin without earning a higher salary. And that margin becomes fuel for the next strategy. It's what allows velocity banking and the shred method to accelerate from, oh, this is an interesting concept, to this is a life-changing system. Fundamental number 4, ownership as the foundation of wealth. When you start reclaiming more of your income by lowering interest, by reducing tax friction, and tightening the flow of your month, the question becomes, what do you build with the money you now get to keep? And the answer almost always is ownership. I don't mean owning the biggest house or buying something super impressive to drive. I mean owning anything that gives you stability, equity, and the ability to participate in long-term growth. People often misunderstood this part of velocity banking. They think the strategy is about debt payoff, but payoff is only the first chapter. The real goal here is to create a foundation that increases your options, not your obligations. And that foundation is ownership. Here's why. When you own something, whether it be your home, your equity, your financial position, you stop renting your life from everyone else, renting money from lenders, renting time from high interest debt, renting freedom from your future self. Ownership breaks that cycle. For most people, the easiest and most meaningful form of ownership is a home. Not because it's glamorous, but because it gives you something you don't get from renting, and that is leverage. You see, a home builds equity quietly in the background, and equity is stability, equity is access. Equity is the tool that velocity banking uses later to accelerate your wealth building. It doesn't matter whether the home is big or it's small. It doesn't matter if it's your dream house on a hill or it's a starter condo. What matters is that it's yours and that it's building something under your feet. In fact, I've told several people that if you're just getting started looking at home ownership, even the smallest of properties can make a world of difference in your wealth building journey. And here's the part most people miss. You don't wait until everything is perfect to begin building ownership. Ownership is what creates the conditions for things to get better. So once you combine a predictable financial flow, lower invisible expenses, and a foundation of ownership, you're no longer playing defense. You're playing a very different game, one where your money works alongside you, not against you. Fundamental number 5, habits create the results, not income. Everything we've talked about so far, creating breathing room, redirecting your surplus, shrinking the invisible drains in your month, building ownership, all of it depends on one thing: your ability to repeat a few small behaviors long enough for the math to work. And this is where most people underestimate themselves. When we talk about habits, people imagine big lifestyle changes, drastic budgets, extreme discipline, cutting every joy out of their life. But the habits that matter in velocity banking and the shred method are surprisingly small. They are things like checking your cash flow once a week, timing your payments intentionally, keeping your money organized so it moves where you want it to, adjusting quickly when something in your month changes, and using financial tools instead of reacting emotionally to bills. These, again, don't sound dramatic. They don't make for exciting headlines at all, but they are the reason that this strategy works. So the families who make the most progress aren't the ones with the biggest income or the most aggressive payoff plan. They're the ones who stay aware, they stay consistent, and they make micro adjustments without waiting for a crisis. It's the difference between brushing your teeth every day versus waiting until you need a root canal. Small things done regularly, consistently over time prevent big problems. And this is why velocity banking is so powerful for low and middle income earners. Because if you can adopt a handful of steady habits, nothing super extreme, the system keeps snowballing on its own. You don't have to fight your way out. You just have to keep showing up long enough for the compounding effect to kick in. There's a quote that I use often. If you do for 2 years what most people won't, you can do for the rest of your life what most people can't. Not because you outworked everyone, but because you out-consisted them. And when your financial habits finally line up with your financial goals, that's when velocity banking stops feeling like a strategy and it starts feeling like freedom. The final truth: can you use velocity banking with low income and still build wealth? So after everything we've covered, let's answer the question you came here with. Can someone with a low income actually use velocity banking and not just survive, but build real wealth? The truth is yes, but not because of some loophole, not because of clever tricks, and not because the math bends differently for different people. It works because wealth has far less to do with the size of your paycheck and far more to do with the shape of your financial habits. So if you can, create even a small amount of predictable breathing room. Send that money toward the biggest drains instead of letting it sit quietly in savings. If you can reduce the hidden costs that have been eating your income for years. If you can build ownership instead of renting your financial future. And if you can repeat a handful of simple habits long enough for momentum to take over, then yes, velocity banking can absolutely change your financial trajectory. Even if your income is modest, even if your month feels tight, even if you've tried other systems and nothing stuck. Because the power isn't in the tools, it's in the way you start using your money intentionally instead of reactively. I've seen families who felt boxed in for years suddenly realize, well, I do have options. I've seen people who thought they'd never get ahead finally feel the weight lift off their shoulders because the numbers started moving in the right direction for them. And I've seen people earning very average incomes build momentum faster than they ever expected. Not because they made more, but because they learned to keep more of what they make. So if you're sitting there thinking, I want this to work, but I need a clear path, you don't have to figure this out alone. If you want to see exactly how to take everything we talked about today and to put it into action, how to use a HELOC to eliminate debt faster, how to build real wealth and create genuine financial independence, head over to theshredmethod.com. That's where I break all of this down step by step. We walk through the system in detail. We can run your numbers for you and show you how to put your money in motion using what we call the wealth flywheel. It's a simple framework that helps you turn your home into your biggest wealth building asset, not your biggest monthly liability. And if you made it this far, like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend who might appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.